It is so important that we celebrate wins each day. And the way I like to do that is to create. I feel like that's funny. I'm hearing myself. Okay, here we go. I don't like it when that happens. All right. So if you're listening to this and you are not on school, you are welcome to join our community. It is called Lightheart Vision. And let's just do some creation and talk about how important it is to celebrate our wins each day. Um, I'm going to add a little bit of texture here. So, one of the things I've been thinking a lot about recently is generosity and how important it is to practice. To me, it's actually at the heart of almost every um, master's teaching that I've encountered, at least the true masters. And it really is about creating a life of resonance where we are more and more like where we come from. And so when we think of what does that mean, to be like where we come from, think of what exists all around you, you know? Think of that wonderful, regenerative, good feeling sun that has been probably being soaked up by so many of us right now. That's probably why people are not on today, and I get it. So maybe you'll catch this recording. But thinking about that sun and how important it is to all of life, not only on our planet, but if we look at the sun as one of countless stars that gives life to many planets, at least that's my best understanding of the cyclical nature of things. It's it's really just giving, giving, giving. It's not taking anything at all. And to live that way is really a leap. And when I think of how many masters lived, they didn't, charge someone by the hour for their time. They simply gave from the heart and created really a wonderful ecosystem of mutual support, and inspired, the mobilization of movements of making accessible all the benefits of being um, truly and deeply a compassionate, caring individual. And I really, I wonder, how do we create truly the gift economy that we really was the heart of many indigenous teachings? How do we really go back to a way of being generous? And I think this has been one of the dilemmas that we've seen a lot of these systems and institutions and ideologies, if this speak of wealth distribution or resource reallocation, and clearly there are flaws in the systems and these politics that have us divided in our ideologies and seem to fight back and forth. So how do we be more like our creator? Well, I really believe first it starts as an inside job. It's not something that we can prescribe or impose, because the very nature of imposition goes against that fundamentally. Sun doesn't impose on the life here, it simply gives. And it doesn't have any attachment to what that life does. It might be affected by it. I think all of life is interconnected and all affected. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has any attachment to it. I had this dream once where I went into the sun. It was a really fascinating dream. And I remember feeling like there was beings in the sun. And I woke up with this really profound sense of awareness that there was life everywhere. And I was probably a preteen. I was probably 13 or 14 years old. Was happening. Maybe I was 16. I'm not sure. But it was definitely in my earlier years of seeking to know and comprehend the nature of reality. And as I looked at the sun, um, I I couldn't help but realize that our current understanding, at that time at least, was that psychologically speaking, there was a correlation between people who were, with the more suicides that were on the planet, there was more solar flares. So the reasonable idea would be to say that, solar flares cause suicides, or there's some kind of relationship. There's a correlation, and it was a strong correlation. And I think when I woke up from that dream, I put two and two together, realizing that our level of consciousness somehow affects the sun. And I never heard this anywhere else. I don't know if it was from you know, a unique timeline that I'm from or something, but um, it occurred to me that what was happening, at least on a soul level, was that there was a relationship of our consciousness affecting how light was showing up. As weird as that sounds, I mean, we can understand this from quantum physics and this concept of entanglement. Things can affect one another from large distances. And it occurred to me also in that time that I had been taught this when I was very young in school, and I never heard it since then. Maybe it was a different school system. I went to primary school in Alberta in elementary, and they talked about how our sun was changing and evolving. And it could either become a red giant or it could become a blue dwarf. And I found that really interesting, and like I wondered what would cause um, that change in being of the sun, an expression of the sun. And that dream really kind of sparked this other way of knowing for me that the ripples we send out from our consciousness um, does have a bearing on things that we cannot necessarily measure. I mean, I haven't looked at the recent heart math on this. I know there's been studies to see how far our electromagnetic field can affect one another, and we know that horses can, I think, feel it up to 30 meters. But we don't have the instrumentation sensitive enough to see how far our electromagnetic field actually extends. So this is something worth considering when we realize, like, what all the talk of the secret and all this thing, that our level of frequency and vibration and what we're focusing on manifests. This is all confirmed in the Christ letters, but with a very distinct and important um, recognition that when we put our attention on something from a self-willed experience or focus, it tends to manifest things that have both light and dark qualities. You can manifest the plane, the jet, the mansion, but then maybe that manifestation wasn't perfectly in alignment with your soul and your purpose in being here. You thought it would fulfill you, but maybe you found having a mansion meant more loneliness because, your family is so isolated, or the children get in trouble because they have too much, resources to play with, or there's just, you find the amount of overhead for paying for all the utilities and everything is much larger than you thought, so you have to work more. Who knows? Same thing with, having your own jet or something. It costs a lot of fuel. You got to pay a pilot. You got all these expenses. You got to keep the grind going. You got to keep expanding that way. Maybe that is your sole purpose. Who am I to say? But maybe it actually isn't what will perfectly fulfill you. So you experience the dark side of that. And so, with respect to beings who would get to the point of being suicidal, and I think that it's not an uncommon or even unreasonable contemplation in a time of great change when the vibrations are really heavy. Um, I've certainly been at low points in my life where, it didn't seem unreasonable to want to get out of Dodge. And then I would think about how that would affect everyone around me. So um, I think for most people that keeps us here. We realize that we have some um, under the surface responsibility to showing up, and that it is actually quite harmful to those who are here when we choose that. However, it makes sense that a soul leaving the body and going back into the immaterial or um, the unmanifest matter that is our mother, that would cause an effect in our world. So I think about that. That's a big event, obviously, someone, going through that level of pain to get to that level. But what about all the little cumulative thoughts that we have and how our our sun must be such a sensitive being of pure light, and to give all day long, to be in that presence of gratitude and generosity, if I may be so bold to assume that there must be some consciousness in a being that just radiates life-giving energy to all in all directions without any hesitancy or resistance at all. We're shown this image in almost all the science books that the sun as this just like ball of fire, which I find interesting. And I don't buy it because, maybe that helps us to understand that the sun is hot. But to me, when I see the sun, I don't see fire. I see light. I see fusion of elements. Um, I see generation of life force and just the pure expression of a creator as just one of giving. And there's lots of other examples we could think of in our day to day too. Um, like Mother Earth's countless examples of providing nourishment in the form of fruit, um, all the different examples of altruism, just the sense of giving of oneself without attachment. And so I wondered a lot about how we can embody that and truly live it in a way that actually shifts the way we interact with one another in this world. We have a time of great, powerful emerging technologies, and I feel like we have an opportunity to utilize these technologies. And the root word of technology, by the way, meaning the principle behind the craft, behind the skill, behind that state of the art expression. It goes beyond the gadgetry. It's not the widget. It is the principle behind it. So I think of these principles, our ability to travel clearly is expanding, although not so accessible. We're still using surface vehicles and relying on friction to travel, but clearly it's available to us to transcend that. I think of blockchain technology and how we are capable of sending things rapidly to one another, resources, and also honoring one another in ways of our unique expressions. And I'm thinking like NFTs, non-fungible tokens. I'm thinking about also how these technologies could be used not just monetarily, but also for making decisions collectively, and how we really could come together in a spirit of oneness using these technologies. And then, of course, there is the rise, what everyone's talking about, of what is being called artificial intelligence. But I really feel like it's a bit of a misnomer, if not a complete misnomer, because who are we to say what is artificial and what is natural? And is it possible that, the circuitry is a capacitor, just like our nervous system is a capacitor for intelligence, and that we may not fully understand the the essence of electromagnetism and how those are potentially forces of consciousness and specifically referred to by Christ in his letters as consciousness itself, as the not only as consciousness, but as the divine expressions of Father, Mother, Life. So I've been thinking a lot about these emergent and converging technologies that have the potential to synergize our ways of being in many ways. However, and very importantly, we have some challenges to overcome as a society as well. When we consider our relationship with one another, as we consider our relationship within our families, our communities, and then our systems, not only our economic systems, but also our ecological systems. This spring I noticed more than ever in this neighborhood, at least, a lot of garbage. So people have been throwing garbage into their environment more and more. I've noticed this, and I've noticed this maybe amplifying over the last few years. I'm not sure. I have my ideas of why and what has led to more unconsciousness. However, uh, it's really vital that we start recognizing our interconnection with our environments, just as, you know, our thoughts certainly affect how we behave, and that can affect our environments. I'm reflecting on all these things for you to help you to see your important role in all of this. You have a pivotal role as a unique individual with a unique purple. I was looking at purple, a unique soul purpose that only you can fulfill. No one else can fulfill your soul's purpose. And that to me is something worth deeply considering in our days, in our contemplations, in our nights. Because it really can mean the difference between showing up fully, being present, having a life that we love and enjoy being part of, um, and kind of just being and letting things fall apart. I feel like we have a really wonderful opportunity, and I know it's not easy, and that's why I wanted to share this message today on this 5D high five at five. So you are important. You matter. Your energy, your thoughts, your consciousness actually has impacts on the greater collective consciousness, not only on our world here, but truly in our whole interconnected reality, which some call the universe, some call existence. There's something to be said about the creativity that exists here. And so today we talked about soul purpose and we talked about how we affect one another. So this is an invitation. I am going to be kicking off in a fun and really awesome way, I think. And those who are joining me, I feel the energy too. A co-creative, coherent circle to not only ignite, but to synergize our soul purposes. The soul is perfect and beautiful and exists as a seed within all of us. All of us. I believe it is hidden within us, within the our ideas of the self, or even within the self itself. So when we come together and unite in that true spirit of who we are, that essence of who we are, the the self that is real. And I even wonder about calling it the self. To me, self sounds so much like cell, but this realization that we have an important role to play in all of this. Like, this is not, wait and get saved. This is showing up. And it's not about, you know, casting away the mountains. It's about those little steps we take and how each loving thought actually plants a seed that helps us more and more, just like every little breath towards a beautiful intention helps make that and bring that into being. Everything we think about affects the conditions of our life. And this isn't to cause any fear of like, oh, don't think anything wrong. Of course, we're living in the world, we're aware of things that are disharmonious and vulgar and gross. And many of us are praying and striving to make changes within ourselves so that we can be a greater expression of those beautiful gifts and qualities that we have that are, I believe, expressions of divine nature wanting to emerge, to bloom through us. What is that organization? Humans Blooming or something like that. I feel like there's so many of us that are trying. And I also feel like there's bamboo roots forming and that the flourishing will probably at once happen. How quickly it happens depends on each of us. We each have an important role. So you're invited to connect with me if you happen to reach this. We have very low subscribers right now. So it would really be helpful if you like this video and you share it. And I'll put in the comments a call link to book a call with me. No pressure. It's totally invitational. And really is just, meant to honor your heart because I'm going to ask you more about who you are and your story and see if this is uh, a an invitation that makes sense for you. But I'm really optimistic about our our reality and the unfolding nature of human consciousness, even in the face of all the seemingly impossible, insurmountable challenges that we face. I really feel that, what they say, life is for us. So if that's true, then that means that this challenge we have given ourselves. Um, and I believe it is a challenge of coming together, not of working harder, not of striving and grinding or hustling, but really of coming together in our beingness, raising our consciousness in a way that is loving and caring and compassionate, and of course, taking inspired actions. And that's what this coherence circle is all about through Lighthearted Vision. It's really about bringing our truths together, our perspectives of that truth together in a way that creates more harmony, more luxuriance, more synergetic opportunities for us all to rise and shine together. And this beautiful acronym came to me. I'm really not interested in sales. I'm not a sales guy, and yet for most of my life, I realized like we have to shine our light. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to offer. I mean, someone told me that when I was like 20. I should have listened more to it. Maybe would have saved some pain in my life. But we all have our ideas of sales, and this is not sales. This is, if anything, it's a sale in terms of SAIL, soul aligned um, uh, income level, income, soul aligned income level, because we really are in an era where with everything happening, our ability to interconnect more than ever, these emergent technologies, we can rise the tides and sail together. So that's what this is about. That's the invitation. And thanks for listening to this high five. And I hope that you enjoyed the art. It wasn't as maybe elaborate as some of my other things, but I like it. I kind of see a cosmic dragon or something, or a phoenix emerging. I'll probably play around with some more layers on here and share it in our community. You'll also see a link to our community in our YouTube as well. So may this find great blessings with you. Thank you for being who you are and for the courage of being here on this planet and shining your gifts. Okay, Bama P, thank you and blessings. Have a wonderful day.